What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Show, presented by the Huddle Chat Sports Network and yours truly, Dallas Clark, also known as Indo is my Nindo. And as always, I'd love to thank y'all so much for taking the time out of your day to tune in to this installment of the Huddle Chat Sports. Now, got some exciting news. There is talk between the Huddle Chat Sports Show and another kind of big time but small time sports network. Hopefully we start getting some bigger numbers, bigger viewers, and just starting to get out there more. If you don't know, now you know. We're right smack dab in the middle of our 32 NFL team draft coverage. After the draft coverage, we're getting into all of the off-season moves, then moving on to the mini camps, the training camps, the mandatory OTAs, all of that good news as we build up to the preseason and your favorite, the fan favorite, the fantasy football huddle. I can't wait to bring you this year of FFH, especially now that the Huddle Chat Sports Show is an official LLC. There are huge moves coming in year 4 of the Huddle Chat Sports. As I said leading up into the beginning of the video, we're talking about all 32 teams right now. We're in the NFC North. I've already discussed the Lions. I've already discussed the Vikings. Now we're moving on to the Bears out in Chicago. I know I've got a lot of big Bears fans out there. Shouts out to y'all. Make sure you represent in the comments. The NFC North has been huge in their representation. The Lions, I think, so far are beating the Vikings in representation. So Bears fans, get loud, get proud in those comments. And as always, I ask you to make sure, if you do like the content, to like my video down there at the bottom and check at the bottom while you're there. And make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Also hit that subscriptions bell so you always know when we're talking about whatever you want to hear about, whether it's your favorite team's off-season or preseason, whether it's some big fantasy football news that you need to get the advantage over those other idiots in your fantasy football league. Now, also, don't forget to tune in to the High Roller Huddle, where we're helping you win some money over here on the Huddle Chat Sports Network through the High Roller Huddle and going through all of our favorite sports gambling, getting some good tips and tricks, and like I said, winning y'all some money. Now that everything is done and taken care of, as always, it's time to extend the invitation. Now, there is no peer pressure whatsoever if you do not partake. However, if you do, you know that it is time to spark it up now. So smoke them if you got them. Fill up your cup, roll something up, and let's get right into the news. Now, as we stop off in Chi-Town and talk about the Chicago Bears NFL Draft of 2023, we have to start by saying they had a very steady draft. The Bears is one of those teams, they have a lot of young, flashy playmakers that are kind of coming into their own right. And you look at the Bears team as a whole and say, if they have confidence and belief in their current players that they have on the roster that are young, then they may not need too many holes to fill, but every team needs to fill some holes. Congratulations to these young men who were drafted by the Chicago Bears. Of course, we have to start with their first pick of the draft, which will be Darnell Wright, the offensive lineman from Tennessee, which is a great add for a middle-of-the-road, if that at best, for the Chicago Bears offensive line. They take one of the premier offensive linemen in the 2023 NFL draft class. He's got an NFL-ready body, and his hands is really where he's going to make his money. His handwork and hand size obviously scream NFL ready week 1 starter material. He played most of his career at tackle, but he also did start 13 games throughout his collegiate career at the guard position. So he is very versatile when it comes through that offensive line. He can play tackle, he can play guard. You're most likely going to see him in that Chicago Bears line, kind of protecting the outside of Justin Fields and whoever may be in that backfield for the Chicago Bears in the near future. He's got an extremely strong upper body, very long arms, and he plays extremely relentless and has extreme aggression. He fits the mold of what you would want in an NFL-ready offensive lineman. I mean, of course, at the beginning, I don't think he may be at the level of Quentin Nelson that the Indianapolis Colts have, but who thought Quentin Nelson would be the best offensive lineman in the NFL when he was drafted? We all knew he'd be good, which is exactly what Darnell Wright is going to bring to the Chicago Bears, and Chicago Bears fans can be happy knowing they have a solid piece that they added to their offensive line. Their next pick in the draft is going to be Gervon Dexter, senior defensive lineman out of Florida. He was honestly one of the most physically impressive defensive linemen this year, hands down. He's extremely tall, but do not let that big, long frame fool you. He's extremely athletic despite his size. He has the ability to play both gaps with his length. He can fill up an entire hole that an F-150 would be able to drive to, and that's exactly what the Chicago Bears need. It fits the mold of Chicago Bears. You think of like an Akeem Hicks, the anchor that's been on the defensive line for the Chicago Bears. He fits that mold of the Chicago Grizzly Bear style defensive lineman. I think he's going to be an extremely perfect fit for this defense. He's a solid playmaker and will grow to be a long-term starter for the Chicago Bears defensive line, and I think he's going to be a name for y'all Chicago Bears fans to know and the NFC North to fear for years to come. Next pick we're going to be talking about for the Chicago Bears is going to be Tyrique Stevenson, the cornerback out of Miami. He was an extremely versatile player on defense. He can play both cornerback, he can play nickelback, he can play safety, both free and strong. That's always great to see, especially in today's NFL. It's not just being locked into that one position, almost like the NBA is getting rid of positions altogether. The secondary in the defensive standpoint of an NFL team is starting to become one in the same. Cornerbacks should be able to play safety, should be able to play nickel, should be able to play slot. You should be able to move all around. Kind of gone are the days of the Richard Sherman style defensive player in the secondary. And Tyrique Stevenson fits that extremely beautiful. He has absolutely amazing athleticism and extremely high explosiveness. One of the greatest things about him, which you don't typically see in the cornerback position, but when you do see, you love to eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He's extremely physical. He loves to tackle and is great help in that run game. He can definitely grow into a starting role fairly quickly in the Chicago Bears defense and become a name to fear and keep the Chicago Bears as one of those defensive strengths that have always been in the NFL. Now, before moving on to the rest of the amazing picks that the Chicago Bears had, I'd love to give a big shout out and thank you to our sponsor, Danklyfe brand. Danklyfe brand is back up and running in full motion right now. A perfect time to hit up Danklyfe clothing brand. Danklyfe is where you're going to go ahead and get any customized gear. If you're like myself and you are a huge fan of your team, however, you're extremely sick and tired of wearing the same tired ass gear that you can get from the NFL store, from your local Walmart, or you live out of state from your team and anything cool that might come to you is going to be snatched up by the nearest fan of your squad. Quit looking like everybody else and quit looking everywhere for gear. You found the place with Danklyfe brand. Danklyfe, of course, is going to be a big reason why we have all of the new logos and all the new looks that we hear on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. We also are going to be thanking and loving the Danklyfe clothing brand for all of the things they're giving us for our giveaway which we'll be doing once we hit 100 subscribers. So make sure that you shout out to Danklyfe clothing brand. Slide over there, see what you can get customized. I know all of the gift-giving holidays are just starting to come around the corner. It's never too early to start thinking about that anniversary, that birthday, or even your Christmas shopping. Get some of that shit out of the way right now and hit up Danklyfe brand. Thank you so much to Danklyfe for all the hard work that you do over here at the Huddle Chat Sports Show. And if you made it this far into the video and haven't liked the content, please drop down right now and comment. Tell me why you have not liked the video at this current time. Let's have a conversation. Let me know what I'm doing wrong, because if you've made it this far, why haven't you liked it? You just watching it to hate on your boy at this point? Now, moving on throughout the rest of the Chicago Bears 2023 NFL Draft. We're going to be talking about Zach Pickens, defensive lineman out of South Carolina. He's a prototypical starting defensive line. You're looking at what we got with Javon Dexter Sr. earlier with their second pick in the draft. Now coming back to the defensive line. He has the measurables that are there. You can see all pro in this young man. He is a star in pass rushing situations, but really needs to work on his run defense. He is a liability sometime in run defense, and that's what's going to keep him from being a starter until at least later this season, realistically the 2024 season. But if he can really work on the run defense, like I said, he's a star in pass rush. You can see all pro. He's got the body for an all pro. He can become a really dominant force and a great piece to add next to Javon Dexter if he can work on that run ability. He does need some fine tuning, but can definitely grow into being a star for that Chicago Bears. Next pick in the draft for the Chicago Bears is going to be Rashawn Johnson, running back out of Texas. Probably their most talked about pick throughout this entire draft, their splashiest pick. I mean, they've stayed mostly on the line outside of the one secondary pick they had early in the draft. But Rashawn Johnson in Texas, you look at what the Chicago Bears have had at running back, even going back to the Matt Forte days, they've always had a very solid, very reliable running back. To be honest, you look at Rashawn Johnson at Texas, and he was a great, reliable running back. Unfortunately, he just lived in the shadow of Bijan Robinson. He played 47 career games. In those 47 games, he had only 5 starts. Throughout those 47 games, he ranks number 18 all-time for the University of Texas on their rushing list. He has 26 career touchdowns through those 47 games, which tied for 17th in program history. He is a big and physical running back and has excellent movement. Gives me flavors of what the Dallas Cowboys had back in the day with Marion Barber. He will wear a defense down and will just get better the more you feed him throughout the game. The more touches he gets, the better he seems to run. He's going to fit perfectly in that Chicago Bears defense. Whether you're looking at David Montgomery or any of those backup running backs, he's going to be a great addition and can eventually take over that starting role with a little bit of grooming and a little bit of time. He can take the team the distance. If he gets it into open field, Rashawn Johnson is just a very fearful running back. He strikes fear in the heart of defenses, and he's also highly effective in special teams, not just as a kick or punt returner, but also getting down there on the kickoff team, on the punt coverage team, and making those tackles. No doubt in my mind, Rashawn Johnson is instantaneously going to make a splash on the Chicago Bears. If you think about what Tariq Cohen did a few years ago, I think there's going to be no way you go through this entire season and don't start paying attention to Rashawn Johnson from Texas. The next pick we're going to be talking about for the Chicago Bears is going to be wide receiver from Cincinnati, Tyler Scott. He's not just a wide receiver, sort of like Devin Hester back in the day that y'all already know and love. He's also a return specialist, a big-time kickoff returner. Like I said, he's going to give you flavors of that Devin Hester. We'll see if he can be even a fraction as good as Devin Hester was, especially in his heyday. And even if he is half as good as Devin Hester, that's going to be something that's going to be huge for you Chicago Bears fans. He's a very explosive slot wide receiver beyond the kickoff game. He's one of the fastest and most explosive players downfield in the 2023 draft class, especially on the offensive side of the side of the ball. He's excellent, extremely excellent hands, and above his waist specifically, he's really good at going up and winning those 50-50 balls with the defense. Tyler Scott can come in instantly, especially on the special teams, and make a big impact, kind of like flavors of what Kamonte Turpin did for the Cowboys last year. So Tyler Scott, Chicago Bears fans, is another pick that you can be excited for. The next pick and last pick we're going to be talking about in depth for the Chicago Bears. They had a lot of picks, and I'm sorry if I do miss a few picks. We're going to still try to wrap up and cover a few of them, but they had so many good picks and so many picks later in the draft that it's hard to cover every single one of them and keep this video into a length that you'd be interested in watching. The last pick we're going to be talking about is Noah Sewell from Oregon, linebacker. You might remember the Sewell name from Penei Sewell, the great offensive lineman that was drafted just a year or so back. He's the brother of the offensive lineman Penei Sewell. He's a very old school style linebacker, which you Chicago Bear fans are going to love to hear. A very Ray Lewis, very Brian Urlacher style linebacker. Big, downhill, hit sticker type linebacker that's going to make those big plays, and it's going to be hard to take those hits day after day, play after play for the other side of the ball. He stands offensive linemen up at the point and sheds those blocks, and he plays the best between the tackles as an interior linebacker. The greatest thing about him, though, which you Chicago Bears fans are going to love, and your defensive coordinator is going to love, your new defensive style coaching is going to love, is he's an excellent blitzer. Whether it's in zone or man coverage blitzing, he's great. He's an amazing blitzer. And so I really think Noah Sewell is going to grow into somebody that's going to be a very steady piece for the Chicago Bears. As I said, they had a few more picks. They also snagged up some great value late in the draft. They had Terrell Smith, the cornerback from Minnesota, they grabbed. He's high speed, extremely physical, great in man coverage, and can grow into a starter despite the fact he was a late pick. And then Micah Baskerville, either the linebacker out of LSU. He's an undersized linebacker. He's an off-ball outside linebacker. But he's a great tackler, another great blitzer, and he plays very well in coverage, very similar to my own Shaq Leonard from the Indianapolis Colts. Like I said, the Chicago Bears, honestly, I don't think they missed so far on a single pick. Of course, it's always easy to talk about these players until you see them in action. But honestly, they didn't have a ton of splash early in the draft, which leads you to believe that they didn't have an interesting draft. But they filled some of the most important holes that have been degrading over time. And it's hard to ignore that. Plus then adding Rashawn Johnson, who can grow into a star. Plus those great value picks they got late in the draft. It's hard not to give the Bears at least a minimum of an A- with their draft class this year. They may not have a ton of splash, a ton of names that become well known. I don't see a rookie of the year in the Bears draft class, but I do see a ton of players that can grow into starters and grow into stars and become potentially all-pro, Pro Bowl style players. So like I said, I gotta give the Chicago Bears a minimum of an A- with how steady and sturdy these additions are to their team. That's going to be it for the Chicago Bears. We're going to be wrapping up the NFC North with the Green Bay Fudge Packers with the next episode. Then moving on to the fourth quarter of these NFL teams, the last two divisions, the AFC East and the NFC East. We're going to be talking about both after we wrap up the NFC North next episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you made it this far and haven't liked it, why the hell are you still here? Make sure you please drop a thumb, help your boy out. You don't understand how much that helps me out. And tell a friend and tell that friend to tell a friend about the Huddle Chat Sports Show. It's greatly appreciated. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Keep your chins up and your attitudes down. I'll see y'all next time, and I'm out of here. Peace out.